가자카라 요거들이 주로게 되는 마산 사마를 다시들이죠.
So first Ashidelik and to all Madama friends who have joined us on the live stream and who are actually here.
Ma pamela chuja kampa pa pamba roba jang rongba kajula manolo so ande ema ho nasi nabda de jang kan kubji da ne lama jimane garchi da ba chabda do je jang son de sen jang lo yo to ji zong sa da ngo de be jang de nan da san zen zhou go bo jo sa dan qin jing wu jo yo go chmi do je jang na so ande sa dong ga jang la chu je jin那说明朋友啊，接了说身边中的有的担心了，当把出去人的早都说，我这里可能就说那么了，你不那是个拒绝跟能力，这里他的个chấp nhận的些那种一些紧张出往过的他成功的那头过来，这就说那个这里这个。애들이 다다 탑 제가 같이 돈나 탑 탐색에 과 자고 요래 네 이제 이성 원정는 송해 사적기는 틀에 탐색저 그 통용된 틀에디 용디 참말 요래 사시가 탐색을 들이 대회는 되다 근데 이시바당 탐색받니 제가 요래 이시바다 답책받니 시에는 내 하장 땡서 먹고야 요래 삼모 땅 거리 가서 참아 답책받 시에는 저리 이게 답책도 너디 법은 쓰고 요래 얘네 다다 예미 동직장은 샘대식 뭐 그런 사다 찍바래지 라이 시바실들이 난 슬람 한번 사요나 난 투소대 찍바래 야한테 시롱도 찍들이 통내적이 통보니가는 동당군데 망을 찍바래야 돼 세들이들이 이 롱거도 쪼거들이 강절 될라될 동바지 이때도 담나 만나서 라 고도사지 지나서 대답을 내가 트레거 방식이더니 나만도 또 될라 따뜻한 탐색 받으면서 탐색 쌍탐색 가리 선대식이 뭐 가서 요래 습기 탐색을 건데 대식이 뭐로 와요 잡송 내가 데려가 당서 대식이 뭐 용띠 뭐 받을 거래 다 나지 그때는 처럼도 자서 얘리 찍어야지 저런데 흔히 쳐래 맞춰래 잡지 쳐대 찍어야지 다 로버를 못장 로버를 좀 접서 사지 좀 내지가 좀 말해 로버가 좀 가래 다이 다 납다니지 도마는 나오 냐만데 레벨 말고라 별 파니 곡성 천이 세마타도 갈려보다 나니 곡성 이 좁하는데 내가 버리 상황 대들이 카바만요 대들이 딸처럼 차서 네 대들이나 차는 다다다지 대반이 뭐죠 습기 탐색을 사제가 행보를 봐시나 이 다다다 다동하고 그러더니 대외들이 탐색과 시방을 이제는 탐색 라당이 sem주 바래야지. 이렇게 다다다지 봐 말이야. 다나 처럼 사성. 그래서 나디가 차성이지. 이 때라더니 이치기랑 조막을 시바탐애들이 추가 나프라다오니 로가 자성죠. 이 쪼고 잡았다오더니 강을 가는 전에 웃었더니 배우걸 처럼이 마찬가지. 처럼 시험을 돼. 처럼 저리들이 처럼 시험을 들어가를 배우고 또 요리. 이 사람 그 사이 거기에 르저 잡았다. 르이지 간딩 잡았다. 송마디베 나가 잡았다. 나 자동 지지지 또 봤다. 리세 동당 디베나 다지 니디가 사타고 지지지 봐들. 다지 니디인데 니디면은 되리베나. 선남 갔다 어디 리 만한테 송들이 생단 남파 체면 죽을 온도 봐 이제 주고 하고 되는 따와 하고 되는 저거리 따위 타초 되는 저거리 저 타주는 내력도 되는 삶을 하고 내력들은 이게 얘네 상계에 대 독신시에나들이 얘네 볼때 주탐절이야 아주 똑같이 뭐지 다시 정부터 다다 얘네 딱 이게다 로를 들다 랑이다 로를 들다 이성 그래서 다시 말해야 되네 로를 들다도 니지 시험을 랑이다 랑이 얘네 잠소자 저기 말해 대하고는 오 담석이 이미에 게 좋은데 강에 때 차원도 이제 다 상속시지고 그래 저 탑가에는 토마 상속시지 송그를 당가지는 취사와들이 상속들이 많아 그래 니만 차공에 뒤에데 토론지는 저탑 탐지를 변거래 시바가래에 오 미소를 롱거다 저거 담을 말해야지 마음에는 가리 따로서 로아를 쪼래야지 로아를 쪼는 들을 매는 배우 능이 집사 최종나 만나서 들으라는 래 나만나서 들이 털도 거고 저거 되는 성선다 되니 리모트 좀 저거를 빼나 성선도 누구 말해 옛날만한테 성선을 깨지다가 좀 잡아래 빼는 도로 쏘고 하장 쏘고도 저거는 때는 다 되자고 그래 다 나타도 짜지오나 이셀 나타오나 민속체보다는 그거 버텨들려는 거다 뒤에다고 싸우는 다음에 깜깜 배중을 깔래 자고 대대 내가 대식을 보고 돌아줘야 얼마 가지는 애들이 돌지 창되네 그래서 그거는 오 답책과 하시와 상가라 대식을 보고 서 될때 대식을 보고 그 지와서 말이 임식으로 다디가 봐도 고시를 임식으로 그래서 봐 재미있게나 들이 기대나 그래 서로가 시바대 고성통선 하던데 늘 남상 죽고 요래 고시고 나온 임식으로 고시 나온 고시 방안데 제형은 들이 될때는 들이 생을 상속생을 좋을 때는 단지 다시 실리들이 다 용띠들이 차그런데 조용띠 무슨 정거래 이 집마다 당책관이 좀 당시에는 또 당책관 나길 사지 다다 나 남바이 코 남바미 때를 때는 거기 좀 단서 받아들 아주 가서 까게 대해서 통하는 따뜻히 당주로 소리 들이다지 이제 때려도 이제 고아자요래 대회는 사말 대식은 뭐니 대식은 뭐 대사제래 대례의 상제에 대식이 뭐 광생은 내놓대 예례 상제에 막 학원들 다 하고 그래 대도 고아 냉잡는 나무야 보여래지
So, Dharma friends, coming back to the sadhana of the threefold deity, Hayagriva, Garuda, and Vajrapani, we are now continuing the commentary. So, if you have the sadhana, we're following the Tibetan now. So, we just finished this line where it says, I translated, the great the great pervasiveness, and so all pervasively the hardy spirits are being tamed. And so the next line that we continue with starts with Hong Shri. I invite the wisdom beings and make offerings and receive empowerment from them. And generally speaking, whatever sadhana you receive a teaching of actually can be applied to all the sadhanas. You can gain an understanding of all the sadhanas. Lord Jigten Sumgön had said in the Gongchik that if practice one deity accomplishes all enlightened activities. So the wisdom beings, all the wisdom beings, possess the enlightened body, speech, mind, activities, and qualities. And so we have wisdom beings, and then there are the samaya beings. And it's actually a very profound understanding that we can take from just these two terms. So we, who visualize, are the samaya being. And fundamentally, we are indivisible from the wisdom being. In the Vajrakilaya practice, it says, primordially, we are of one single nature. So essentially, the Buddha nature of my own Buddha nature is indivisible from the deity, the wisdom being. So even though there may be hundreds and thousands of different deities, they have a single life force, a single mind. That's why it is said, within the expanse of wisdom, all the Buddhas are one. So within the empty wisdom mind, from the perspective of the ultimate truth, they all are one. And then on the external level, there's some Bogakayas and Nirmanakayas manifest according to the needs of sentient beings. And that is why there is a great variety of different sadhanas and different deities with different appearances, implements, colors, and so forth, who perform various enlightened activities. So that is all on the relative level. Different activities are being performed. So we are the samaya being, and that has a very profound meaning too. The essence of the samaya being is that we possess Buddha nature. And that is the nature of all sentient beings. It is said that Buddha nature pervades all sentient beings. It is just that the qualities of Buddha nature are not yet manifest. And that is because of self-grasping. Because of self-grasping, our mind has become like an ice block. Although primordially, the ice block also is water. So to begin with, the ice block is indivisible from the ocean water. The Buddha had said, beings are only obscured by adventitious stains. So what are these adventitious stains? And these are the stains of dualistic grasping, arising from this concept of a self. So first, this thought of I exist arises. For example, when we sleep and wake up, what is the first thing that we say, that we think? We think that I have slept. And so that the moment we wake up, we immediately think me, I, or this is my cup of water. Everything is my, or me. And just like snowflakes falling down, we accumulate this concept of I. And this is how the mind has become like an ice block. So when we are introduced to the twofold truth, then we are introduced to the nature of mind of sentient beings, that their essence is actually Buddhahood. So that is what we need to understand here when we, in the context of the samaya being. So fundamentally on the basis, the samaya being is indivisible from the deity or from the wisdom being. It is just that we have not matured into that. Because we grasp it as self, the mind has become like an ice block. So the wisdom deities that are invited here, the mind of the wisdom deities is the Dharmakaya, which is like space. And then they manifest as the rainbow-like Sambhogakaya. And then the Nirmanakaya appears like raindrops falling down, then engaging in actual activities to benefit sentient beings. These manifestations are like the sun shining upon the ice block, causing the ice block to melt. And once the ice block has melted into water, we can actually use that water. So we visualize the form of the deity in order to purify the obscurations of our body. That is the perception of this is me, the identifying with the body. And then we recite the deity's mantra in order to purify the obscurations of speech, and specifically that is the concept grasping, that the grasping concepts that inflate one's like the actual thing with one's interpretation of the actual thing. And then the mind is purified through the altruistic mind. So the ultimate obscuration to be purified is the dualistic grasping at self and other. When there is no more dualistic grasping, then the mind abides like space. Milarepa had said, when you realize that mind and space are inseparable, you have actualized the Dharmakaya. Or we can call that you have understood the view, you have realized the view, you have decided upon the natural state. You have realized the nature of the mind, meaning that you have recognized that your primordial nature is the Buddha. In the Dzogchen teachings, for instance, it says that mind primordially is the Buddha, and that is the nature of all phenomena in samsara and nirvana. So primordially, our nature is pure. We are only temporarily obscured by dualistic grasping. And when dualistic grasping becomes purified, the mind becomes like ocean water. Currently we perceive a duality of self and other. And so then when you understand this point, you know that, so now my mind is like ice, and I need the warmth of bodhicitta to melt this ice block. And that is why any sadhana first begins with the practice of bodhicitta, according to the fivefold path of Mahamudra 2. Because bodhicitta is like the sun that melts the ice block. If you keep that in mind, it will really help you with any sadhana practice, whatever wisdom deity you practice. The wisdom deity, the wisdom being, are the full maturation, having matured into the nature of the Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya. The sentient beings in the 6 realms of samsara are still in an immature state, and therefore we experience much suffering. For example, in the human realm, we experience much suffering, different levels of suffering because due to various karmas accumulated. There is the Nirmanakayas, or the Turkus. Actually, the sentient beings living in the lower realms are the Turkus or Nirmanakayas of the 3 poisons, the afflictive emotions. And actually, the 3 lower realms are not something negative, but they are a place where we can purify our obscurations. For example, if you have dirty clothing, then you need some soap to cleanse your clothing. Or for example, if you have a very severe illness, like for example you have cancer, then you need very severe, very strong medicine to treat it. For example, some cancer medication makes people lose their hair and so on. So we need severe treatment for severe illnesses. And no matter what difficulties we endure, Buddha nature will never become spoiled or change in any way. It will always be as it is. And that is the nature of the Buddha Vajradhara. So as the samaya being, therefore we should recognize, I possess that nature, I possess Buddha nature. I only must melt the ice block of self-grasping with the altruistic mind, through giving rise to immeasurable compassion. And then I can become this wisdom being. If I give rise to immeasurable compassion, then the blessings of the wisdom beings, enlightened body, speech, and mind, will instantly enter me. Or it is like I become open and receptive, like opening the temple doors. So what opens those doors or makes you be receptive in this way is the altruistic mind in the beginning. The warmth of bodhicitta that melts the ice block of self-grasping. And when it melts, then you will see how ultimately, actually, this ice block is by nature water. So this is the nature of the wisdom being and the samaya being, and this understanding can be applied to any sadhana practice. So as the samaya being, I should think, primordially I am the Buddha. Now, some people say, I'm a Buddhist, he's not a Buddhist. But actually, it is also said that those who grasp at tenet systems or philosophical views are ordinary beings. And this is really often the root of all our conflicts. First, we develop a biased view towards our religion. And then we divide between self and other. And this is precisely how samsara comes about, through this dualistic perception. Everything becomes two. So actually everyone possesses the same Buddha nature. And the Buddha nature is Buddha. So Buddha nature, or the natural state of the mind, primordially is Buddha. And if you understand that, then you have understood the view. So it would be really excellent to understand this aspect of the sadhana practice in this way. So I invite the wisdom deities, make offerings, and then I receive empowerment. And so by inviting the wisdom beings, then I merge, the ice block then merges with the ocean water. And then when I'm receiving empowerment from the wisdom being, I give rise to the qualities of the wisdom being. I develop faith in the qualities of the wisdom being. I recognize that the nature of ice is suffering, and develop faith in the ocean, devotion to the ocean water, wanting to become like the ocean water. And then with that aspiration, I make offerings of the 7 branches. And in this way, the ice block over and over again melts. Then I receive empowerment, and through receiving empowerment, the ice block attains freedom. So the ice block then becomes the ocean water. The way we connect to the deity in this way is by cultivating the 3 kinds of faith: the clear faith, the longing faith, and the trusting faith.
사실 것은 제반은 얘들이 잡소되게 같이 요래 칼나 칼 찐당 잡아들라서 거더니 잡을링이 실레터게 쪼시게 쳐도 상기 띠말에 되변했다 니몽한테 들이 시간만 좋아하는 자는들 왕갑이 된 것도 그런 거예요. 접작 돌겠습니다 제들 나도 남들 사람 통이 요바더니 뭐 니집에 봐 나도 라 작동하지 자자가요는 될 자동 지지에 또 니집에 봐 자당도 보면 봐 나 레통 톡도 지에들은 톡이 시계거는 님에 봐 대도 죽은 남 갔다 어디 가야 잡대 요래 너그 자통도 어디这样 나야 요래 답고신 감고 다시 가면 그 저걸 잡았다 어디 내가 로버트 말들이 맞아 누가를 들어서 와 나서 저거요 오 저거도 어디 로버트 말들이 들이 저들 답도 타가는 상상은 납치자면 차로 삐띠다 찍어서 삼노선 오다 샘대식이 뭐 그런 다들 답도 쳤다 그래서 답도 쳤대 뭐 동안 나갔다 그래 되지 저기 아고서는 이 답다 돌게서서 돌게서들이 매야 얼마 가디는 돌게지 받들이 가디는 요리되대 요딱대 다다 따라랑을 시작이 요리 롱저바게 워마따와 남인지는 사도니 때라서 다음에는 뭐 주서는 오 대들 성이랑 내lok되더니 뭐또 만나 갔다고 주가 내랑지 사베이시들들이 랑랑사라 리미타 투제꾸나 잡아더니 이 사마들이 nin지 돈지 얘기라도 그 호대 영어 찾으면 남게가 잡대요래 이 거섬그랑 이제 성이 두방을 돼 내식이 뭐 그러는 요래 이 대들이 다 호대 돌겠으면 제세 대들이 다는 동네에 가까이 오면서 온아 홍송들이 산지 탐색을 거송톡 뜻대지고 그래서 철대야 될 거래 가까이 오면 거탐지 쪽 봐야 돼 송탐지 쪽 봐, 송착동 톡탐지 뭐 쪽 봐야 시 로나 자와 탐지 시로도 적대 기간들이 따로는 내 손에 대랑 이 차원을 레레를 상황한 걸로 말해서
So then it says, and then the stream the obscurations are purified and attain the three vajras. So the first the dualistic grasping at self and other, the ice block melts into ocean water, and so regarding the three vajras, so the three obscurations then become the three vajras. It is to recognize when they become the three vajras. It is to recognize that the nature of ice is water, and there is no solid thing, no solid water that actually exists. So, and it also refers to the enlightened activities of enlightened body, speech, and mind. The enlightened activity of water, for example, you have the ocean water, and you have the vapor arising from the ocean, then becoming clouds, clouds becoming rain. All activities in this world are actually performed by water, and that is also a Buddha activity. During an empowerment, we are introduced to the connection between the 5 afflictive emotions, the 5 wisdoms, and the 5 outer elements. So the outer appearances are by nature the deity, in essence empty of self-nature. All sounds that are perceived are empty sounds, having the nature of mantra. There is no grasping to the true existence of sounds. And so that's the first one, is the empty appearances is the vajra of form. The empty sounds is the vajra of sounds. And then the empty mind or empty awareness is the vajra of the mind. It is the non-dual mind, the space-like Dharmakaya. And then from this space-like Dharmakaya, the rainbow-like Sambhogakaya emerges with various forms and pure lands and so forth. And then the Nirmanakaya is like the rain falling down from the clouds, then manifesting temporarily in the realms of the sentient beings, the 6 kinds of beings, benefiting beings there, beings who are temporarily confused or obscured, have temporarily become like an ice block, even though their true nature is actually ocean water. And so these qualities of the 3 vajras, which are the qualities of the 3 kayas, are present within anyone's mind, within Buddha nature. So, for example, the empty essence of the mind is the space-like Dharmakaya. And so this term vajra, the 3 vajras, vajra also refers to the fact that it is steadfast and invincible. It cannot disappear. It's always ever present. So this is how it is explained from the perspective of the view. The way these 3 kayas, or the nature of the mind is recognized through the scripture, the teachings on the scriptures, the scripture authorities, is called the middle way or Madhyamaka view. And if it is resolved through practice, it is resolved through practices like Dzogchen and Mahamudra and so forth. But when one sees the true nature of the mind, or one recognizes the view, then one recognizes how those three kayas are naturally present within one's mind. So again, the empty essence of the mind is the space-like Dharmakaya. The Sambhogakaya is the naturally clear awareness. It is a self-illuminating awareness, just like a lamp flame illuminates itself. And then the Nirmanakaya is the all-pervasive compassion, or the unity of emptiness and compassion, pervading wherever space pervades. So these three kayas are naturally present in one's own mind, one's own Buddha nature. Then it says, and therefore from the three syllables Om Ah Hong, so these three vajras relate to the three syllables Om Ah Hong. We all condense them into one single meaning that, even though we say there's those three kayas, actually they are not separate from one another. They all arise from the empty mind itself. So again, empty appearances in terms of the three vajras is empty form, is a deity, empty sounds is the mantra, and then there's the empty mind. And within this empty mind, we have said within primordial wisdom, all the Buddhas are one. If one only rests within the natural state or within the view, and one recognizes that within that, all these qualities are naturally unified or present. So there's no need to think of them individually.
Zogtolan the Mamma Nanton, Jatilan the Mamma, Haran, similar to Dr. Yeti, Dr. Jalan the Mamma, but they are Gita or the Nede, the signal calling you, the signal Nede, the daughter, the only Shita Shimana, this surrogate Rita Matability, Chantin, the lady, the heart of the Shibadeli. 나팔이 차바바다를 들이카고 용서발인데 이끼 장들이 동치발들이 되게 빼내지네 사자들 카바밥 되나 자원 찾으나 다니 마샬들이 차바바고는 이제 담지를 딱 틈송한테서 이런 담지 되고는데 소시 어마한 som데 꽃합지디 봐 som담지디 봐 톡담지디 봐 똥톡데 디너를 똥톡도지 따보면 안 되는데 깨르면 안 이거죠 예뻐는 봐 놀래 용서 저 정도는 놀래서 똥톡도리 뛰어나데 가시들이 따가만 주는 따가만 주는 삼바 재미가 내되나 되니 저거 다음에 오면 삼바 재미 하자 같이 하고 그것도만 삼바 재미 같이 하래 뒤로 되게 산제들을 남던 저 차트고 그래 이 차로 담소는 저 차트고 그래 들이 뒤에 되니 홍세대 홍대의 동반이 쇠대는 hingi doing his own joke. The day, Chiang Jaman Tarado Cardinal, don't know the Chiang Jermaine, not part of the Lama, Chuka Shakiri. The only day they kick the Trojar Tondil Hadi, Troja Tondil Hadi, not that some over the Coach the Jabbar, song to the standing, talk to the son of Dorgies, they Dawson, you go some talk around the Java Tamji Ting, there's some dignity of the Lapalin, the Gossaja song in the talk something, Java Papa, Niki Tamjil, Tamson, Jerem Gomati, the all terms of the Sabo Young Down the Donchibe, the general of the Jigbo, Yoa, the Young on Hong Sawa, the day Tamshela, the Jigbo Yoa, the day 大不上民俗东西的大上从这个地里哈，东的哈过的，东的哈过的这些我们把亲我要的，有的车子老呀的，这些都大上心反正是，我们做是他们说个写字，我们把那大这不听我这个有么的个，查工的但查工的拉的呢，上手他这查工能学有么的。这事情不讲，这到的，就是30岁的这的嘛，这的，有人不的东西用过，别人我没把事的，我们这的，让30岁的，我那的第二句话上的，这大大的，这大不搞到什么，这人才过来，我没把这30岁的没把他们，你讲我有嘛，这是，这当初话个的，我看他们努力去不。상지 탐색 뒤숨지 사제도 몰라지데 졸라 비스 상지를 봐서 상지 탐지 생기도 되고 상지 요래 뒤숨지 사제 탐지 오 뒤숨지 사제 탐지 뭐 뜻바르도 뭐 이렇게 말했지 그러면 소 탐지게 다다지 가는 졸라 비스 사제를 봐서 나 상지에 가서는 상지를 습득다고 말이 생기 탐지를 펴고 선 대지랑 이게 나디를 고라미 결코这做哈个个日子，这里他到这里来需要他50这话吃个日子，干不对吧？
So in the generation stage practice, the Amahong is always always occurring, very important. So one's own, your own Buddha nature in essence is empty. And so recognizing its essence, there is no grasping at form. When there's no grasping at form, that is what is called empty appearances. When there's no grasping at sounds, all sounds become the mantra. When there's no grasping at mental arisings, that is the empty awareness or the vajra of the mind. So these qualities naturally dwell within the view or the natural state of the mind. They are the qualities or the powers of Buddha nature. And through these qualities of Buddha nature, on the outer level, then Pure Lands manifest, enlightened forms manifest, light rays pervade. And for example, through these light rays, then we invite the wisdom beings to come falling down, descending like rain falling down or like snowflakes in a blizzard. And then merging indivisibly with us. For example, first, if it snows, you have a layer of snow, and then the sun shines upon the snow, then the snow becomes just like rainwater. And when it melts, it then dissolves into the universe and all sentient beings. And so this happens in any generation stage practice. That is why we always encounter the Ah, and Hung. And represents the essence of all enlightened form. Ah represents the essence of all enlightened speech, and Hung represents the essence of the enlightened mind or empty awareness. And these qualities of enlightened body, speech, and mind all dwell within one's view, the natural state of the mind. That is why it is said that the generation stage is primordially established, primordially present within oneself, within the natural state of one's mind. So then when one recognizes that, then all you need to do is dwell within the vajra of awareness or the mind. If you have not recognized the view, then it is best to abide within a state of immeasurable love, because then no self is present. Within a state of immeasurable love, there is no self. So this is the most important aspect of the relative truth. And so through immeasurable love, you will also be able to connect to the Buddhas or to the wisdom deities, or the ice block can connect to the ocean water. So then these syllables, Hong Shri, Hong refers to emptiness, and Shri, compassion. So Hong Shri is the unity of emptiness and compassion. And then, in the sadhana, so from these syllables, Oma Hong, light rays radiate and invite the wisdom beings, the Buddhas, Vajrapani, Hayagriva, and Garuda. And then it continues with Hong Shri again. Then it mentions the dance, the Vajra dance of the unchanging Dharma Dhatu, free from extremes. So this unchanging Dharma Dhatu is the Dharmakaya. And so from within this state, so deities, the next line it says then, who embody all the Buddhas. So these three deities embody all the Buddhas and possess the power of all wrathful Buddhas. So the three Buddhas of Vajrapani, Hayagriva, and Garuda. Or also it is said that the form of the nature of enlightened form is Manjushri, enlightened speech is Hayagriva, and enlightened mind is Vajrapani. These three Buddhas are a natural manifestation of the enlightened qualities of body, speech, and mind. And that is the nature of all the Buddhas of the three times. So then also the implement of the deity that we visualize, for instance, is a manifestation of the enlightened mind. And so then various implements, so as we invite the deity, the implements and so forth of the deity descend down and dissolve into you and the entire universe and all sentient beings. So this is through the light rays that have radiated from the syllables Oma Hong. So it's important to understand the meaning of the Oma Hong. So understand that on the basis, fundamentally, I possess Buddha nature. I possess these qualities of enlightened body, speech, and mind, or Oma Hong. And all sentient beings possess these qualities. And the deity represents the pure aspect of this mind. And so, therefore, when we invite the wisdom being, we also do so with a mind of a pure perception and understanding the essential nature of the wisdom being. If you understand this nature, then the power of the generation stage will be much greater. So then, next in the sadhana, then it says, so for the sake of beings or helpless sentient beings, so please come here to fulfill your samaya. So those helpless sentient beings are helpless only because of grasping at a self. Because their mind has become like an ice block, they are left in samsara. They are left to be an ice block, and an ice block cannot melt on its own without any warmth. Even though they do possess Buddha nature, they need the warmth of bodhicitta to melt. And if that warmth of bodhicitta does not arise, then temporarily, for a long time, they will have to experience continuous suffering. So in this sense, they are helpless sentient beings. And they have not yet connected to bodhicitta. If they connect to bodhicitta, their mind becomes purified, and from the purified mind, the pure lands and the pure forms of deities will manifest. So this term, helpless sentient beings, is a temporary state that is a lack of bodhicitta, which makes beings helpless. So now as the samaya being, so we arise as the samaya being. A samaya being arises out of great compassion for these helpless sentient beings. And that is the aspiration of all the Buddhas of the three times. As it is said in our in our refuge prayer, may I attain enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. This is how all the Buddhas have attained enlightenment. They have attained enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. Their goal or their aspiration is one and the same. So the reason why we are not enlightened is because we might think that I want to attain enlightenment. There has been no one ever who has attained enlightenment with this aspiration, I want to attain enlightenment. All the Buddhas of the 3 times have attained enlightenment through a wish to benefit sentient beings. And with that wish, self-grasping naturally diminishes. So this point needs to be understood very, very clearly. And so this is also how the samaya being then establishes an actual connection to the wisdom being. So it is mainly through this inspirational faith.
Nigdizal Boy Ringung Meba Kangitri, Nigdizal Jersey, Sabdani, Nerem Tariam, Jalin Hobosom, so the Yam does the so thank you, but the Human up to the Shea. There are the Tower Huma, Kazak Huma, Chichi Huma, the Lady Huma, the Laki Huma, not daughters, Tamal, Lord Theatre for me, the Kipoti in my college over there. Huma, the Kari, same with Huma, Tatok, same with Huma, the Huma body. Same with Tama, Ishigari, Huma, the Humongari, the way the Lady Huma Santa, Lay Sashi. 下怪去年嘛，这批推的就是三十岁家里面，他批推的，他这咱们那个做当地的，你这个我甚至来的啥有，我是同意吧的，我嘞没人去都把考虑到个头，那样个都把考虑到，这种上面就在这里，吃错了都把当，错了都把当嘞，没人你去得到结合嘞，你到来啥样的，来娘啊把的，到底是不是那个来个什么呢？啊。 Don't seem to Newman way land or jet. The Marathon, Tari, Rami by Tatri, Mulu was said that I be 2 on the that out on the Mishi Ateli, Mulu was touching one, machine definitely, who can't like Masola Sal Solomon. They thought delayed sound, delayed the young million, 3 that 네, 총 촉대라서 다다 되는 인용데 강기 힘만데 세부 힘만 유mon부에 레사를 띠레기 힘만데 다 용거요래 변나 발돌 마성고를 들으면 제대로 다 용모 용이 되게 해 사는죠요래 대식이 못 쳐라 양도야요 말이야 그래서 레용이도 가래 용을 다 유mon이 용요래 대도 동의만 다 되더니 유mon바 강리성 다진이성 단진이들이 세당성 단진은 도차성 도차를 생각하는 젤라 세당 차도를 세당성 다 유모 뭐 좋게 다 뜻도 그 유모 토토 속주는 밑에다를 달래가대로 조요 이렇게나 무슨 뒤에서 근데 강수는 다 유모 뭐 조요 뭐 하고 그래 정말 나도 들비 정말 아세요 이래 에스식이 델라들이 다 데리들 따뜻한데 내 절대 레사 레 유모이 오래지 배단 잡으는 동이 레레 되나 같이 코소라도 오 레면 되라 이게 되는 거요 말이 되는 레 마산 용왕아들 라리 오 라기는 왔다고 없이 사용자가 저 철로저거도 없이 나를 방법을하고 라나가 레기 와서야나 리치로 쓰는 애들이 메로트는 내로 메로트는 해야 요래 라나가 레드 사잖아. 라나가 레드랑 민용 요래. 대디 대식이 뭐 매바로 레드 산도 요래. 별 다시 보게 될 민성선데 샥지께서 민강라고 그래시. 대다와 다시 잡았다 그래. 대다와 하고는 되려면 대서 고아 요래. 내다 동네 다른 게 봐. 라리 소되면 소만이 대다와 다른데 내야도 강의성 대 하고 그래시. 난 sempre 유무만 촉 내가 생존한 척, 들 다들 속사 좀에 버센지 됐다고 하지. 다 좋은 거요, 그러면 내 당시 tradition zawajini dandina nyumo bal songores lele songores hakona 그 서로 시당 치고랑 사용하는 라는 레그든 철 시당 다디는 시당한 거랬지.
So the next, for the sake of helpless beings, please come here to fulfill your samaya. And the next it says, please come here to tame the planetary spirits, the nagas, and so forth, the various malevolent beings, and pacify epidemics and plagues, conflict, insanity, and so forth, infectious disease of humans and animals in these degenerate times. So regarding these degenerate times, we generally speak of 5 degenerations, and I don't know how to list them. You should also ask Khenpo Tenzin about that. But for example, there is the degeneration of the view and of the person and of the dharma, of karma activities, of the mind. So I'm not sure if I'm listing it correctly. So you can check on that. But mainly the degeneration of the mind is a mind that is afflicted by the 5 afflictive emotions. The pure essence of the mind are the 5 wisdoms. The degeneration of the mind are the 5 afflictive emotions. And then regarding the degeneration of karma or activities, so there are those who engage in many negative activities without any regret or confessing those negativities. Beings without any love, without any bodhicitta, engaging in actions without any love. So this is really how things basically function in this world. We can see it very directly, how such karmas are constantly accumulated in this world. How just one person, for example, can cause so much damage. For example, how much damage has one person caused, or how much damage has a pandemic caused? How has it harmed the life force and the livelihood of many sentient beings? And this is something that just one person can do. So that is the degeneration of karma or action. And then when that karma is created, resulting suffering will be experienced. The karma is created with an afflicted mind. Because the mind is afflicted, some are using other people just like they are animals, giving them no freedom at all. Even though actually we possess a precious human body, it is very precious, but certain individuals don't know that, and then they use other humans, other precious human beings, like they are garbage, and put them to work and so forth. And then many people get angry at them. People get angry at that person, but also it is karma ripening. Due to karma ripening, we experience disease, famine, wars, conflict, and so forth. And now we can see all of this happen very directly in this world. And all of this is the manifestation of karma accumulated with an afflicted mind. So wherever the mind goes beyond this life, the karma and the bardo and so forth, when the karma that is accumulated will not become spoiled. No matter what karma is accumulated, no matter how much misery we experience, Buddha nature still also remains as it is, and it also never becomes defiled in any way. But we do have to experience the result of karma that has been accumulated. In the 37 Bodhisattva practices, it says, all suffering without exception comes from wishing for one's own happiness. So all these afflictive emotions arise from self-grasping. Self-grasping, and that leads to attachment, that leads to greed, that leads to hatred, that leads to jealousy, and so forth. Also, all the afflictive emotions arise from the wish for one's own happiness. And we can see very directly in this world how certain individuals can, even on an individual basis, can engage in very powerful actions. And the fault of all of this is the afflictive emotion, or these 5 degenerations. So at the root, we have self-grasping. And so that is what needs to be recognized when in the face of all the suffering in the world. Some people, when you tell them, oh, this is due to karma, some people get even angry. But in reality, if karma is not being created, then all of this suffering cannot arise. For example, we do say that the 5 elements are the deity, but then also many people who have told me then, but then the deity is causing a lot of harm because there's earthquakes and there's floodings and so forth. So this is because of the karma that is accumulated, and that is why we experience disease and much suffering in the world. For example, in the medical tantras, it speaks about the qualities of the precious pills, Tibetan medicine. But then once the karma has been accumulated, the result still has to come to fruition, even though one possesses Buddha nature. So if one knows how to view this correctly, then one will not see the 3 lower realms as something negative, but more as like a hospital, like a surgical facility where we are able to purify our self-grasping. If you understand it in this way, you have gained already some understanding. And then you will be able to accept or tolerate any kind of difficulty or suffering you experience, according to the 37 Bodhisattva practices. So this is the source of all of our miseries, a pandemic, wars, a lot of misery experienced by sentient beings. It is because of the disturbed, the degenerated mind within the mind of sentient beings that then leads to the emergence of these various harmful, formless beings, like these harmful spirits and so forth, who then come and cause a lot of destruction. But ultimately, we need to understand that all of these actions, karma, arises from the afflictive emotions, which arises from the mind of self-grasping. And if you understand that, then there's really no one to be angry at, aside from one's own self-grasping. And after different kinds of degeneration, the worst is the degeneration of the view, and that is that denial of past and future lives, of karma, cause and effect. For example, seeing a human being just like a withering flower, and so on. And so this is really, this kind of degenerated view is what's really has caused the world to become like that. So it is a view of barbarians.
오, 대단 진피로 대야 대 그게 뭐래 대 사만자라 삼산 조도네 홍세 빠도자왕 거대 담에 계획성 빠도자가 되다 동당은 이디요 말에 되레 랑돌미라데 대친 성적도 말로 정강성 니 책대 가래는데 동당은 니 성적 차되어 돼 대친 성적들은 저거래 니 성적 따와 또는 내가 치고 죽어 내가 치고 또 듣고요 도마로 책들은 건대 나설 망보 요나야 통째로 못 찍고 와서 또 봐야지 니만 니서 말아봐들 도마로 찍선 거요리 건대로 찍도 되나 네 띵말이 저거 삼산 그지 도성 니 성교 따딩하니 넌잘 매봐요 말이 내가 얘기 되는 거서 넌잘 매봐 동제 상차시는 사시가 단지 내려간 데이터 사다 냠디요래 철도 와요, 판도 와요, 말이 라니 소리면서는 관계 죽은 좀 이제 당시 치료를 판도 와서 처음하면 내가 로버를 처음할 때 정을 될 때는 니니 성적 대치 성적이야 어떻게 말해야지.
So then, after this supplication, then it says, Vajrapani Hayagriva Garuda Samaya Tata. So, having supplicated we've supplicated the deity, and that invokes the samaya cha-cha. So the samaya, my samaya and the deity samaya is a single samaya. And therefore, when we supplicate to the deity, then they must come. Because on the basis, our fundamental samaya is one and the same. Our life force is one and the same. And so temporarily we have become separate, and therefore we invoke the samaya by cultivating or generating the mind, which means we cultivate bodhicitta. Without such a mind and generation of bodhicitta, the samaya is of no benefit. So that's also the meaning of when we say abiding within samaya. We abide within samaya when we give rise to an altruistic mind. And so then it continues with the homage, offerings, and praise. So it says again, Hung Shri, free from a need of abandoning and realizing, free of abandoning and realizing the sameness of nirvana and the samaya, and as well as the samaya and the wisdom being. And then it speaks of the union of great bliss and emptiness in the state of multiplicity as being one taste. So on the ultimate level, there is no duality. So this union of great bliss and emptiness. So also generally we actually say that it is a union of the two truths. But we can also say this union of great, actually literally it says the unity of great bliss. This unity of great bliss refers to the realization of the greatly blissful Dharmakaya. And when that is realized, then multiplicity, a great diversity, is recognized as having one taste. So even though samsara and nirvana, all phenomena appear in myriads of ways, they all are empty of self-nature. So they all possess one taste. They are non-dual ultimately. So that's the meaning of a multiplicity, a diversity has a single taste, has one taste. Samsara and nirvana have one taste. And so then it says, I request you to remain steadfastly, and I pay homage and make offerings. And so then all that appears and exists, samsara and nirvana, arises as heaps of offerings. And so, then a little bit more, yeah. And so then down a little bit, it says, I make offerings from the non-conceptual expanse of this essential nature. So ultimately, so what this all is to say is that when the two truths are unified, or here it says this through this great unity of great bliss, within that state, there is no meeting and no parting. So no coming together and no separation. In the Yamantaka practice, it says, I prostrate free from meeting and parting. So actually, we are always together with the deity. There is no coming together and no separation. Or in the 37 Bodhisattva practices, it says, phenomena neither come nor go. Coming and going is only a temporary appearance due to temporary confused states of mind. But in essence, ultimately, there is no coming and going.
데이터 따도 지금 내들이 라진진바 조반바 진벽도 참아 띵마 창들이 데이터 강사 따방하는 애들이 대성 불요래지 창차라야 대라창 조바양 대라창 진벽가 대라창 따방하는 창요래지
So it says, so a few lines before again, it says, I request you to remain steadfastly. And with this request, I pay homage and make offerings. So this is from the perspective of someone, an individual who rests within the view. From the perspective of the view, when you really rest within the view of one taste, it is an undistracted state where you know that there is no difference between samsara and nirvana. When you rest within this view, everything is complete within this view. The invitation of the deity, the offerings made, the request to remain, the prostration, everything is complete within the view. So of such a person who remains within the view.
나시 골대 주법 홍보를 해서 나는 세바세 호안야지 니어들이데 나는 주담지다 탐지에 뭐도 들이 벨라 뉴몽 이시 체메나시 독세롱도 저바에 말하겠어 뉴몽 넘버 더 같으면 아차를 조성산은 아차 조가 가다들 들이 상제 탐지 줘봐 냠도 요래지 들이 될때 초조랑 살 좋아서 저쪽으로 되는데 조바나 도바라서 냠데 요래서 다시 코데디 조부 그래서 나서 받담지 대세 성주다던 것은 노용가라서 봐 노용가에 당기야 조발라다는 뭐 별로 세강만 나기 세강만 동치는 나위나 더 세강만 나기서 세 조바 나게 조바들이라고 또담 대통령 조바 싸워들이 따라자 사는 조바 대통령 선랑이 진 섬도 대통령 조바된 조바타면 나지들아 이 조바 공부하되지 될때 나와 라tak방아 선우직이 야에 강나 주식이 사다라모 대타들이 차들인데 나다를 섬데 다상하 동탐지들 배동만 되어요래 저쪽 대동 탑다를 돌리다지 대응하고 똥봉아 왔더니 싸와지 대대를 대살만 또 주변 철성성을 대살만 또 따와라 대람이 다 주바대도 차대요래스
So all that appears and exists, samsara and nirvana, all arises as great heaps of offerings. So all phenomena of samsara and nirvana, all appearances, have the essence, the nature of being an offering. Milarepa had said that when you recognize that there is no difference between afflictive emotions and primordial wisdom, you have actualized actual realization. So that is when afflictive emotions arise and become liberated in their natural state. Then within such a state, everything becomes an offering to the Buddhas. So the offerings are ever present, are always together. They are everywhere. So when the 6 sense consciousnesses are liberated in the natural place, then all desirable objects of the senses become an offering. Everything becomes an offering, becomes a praise. All of samsara and nirvana, all appearance and existence becomes an offering. For example, that's explained also in the Serkangma, the Golden Temple prayer. It says that all the outer offerings are the 5 desirables of the senses, and the countless offering gods and goddesses. And the inner offering is the experience of bliss and emptiness, and the secret offering is the enlightened view or the mind of the Buddhas, so dwelling within this view. And so in this way, everything becomes an offering. All appearances are the deity, all sounds are the mantra, all outer appearances are the boundless palace, all inner beings are gods and goddesses. Appearances are deities, sounds are mantra, and mind is primordial awareness. Actually, just within those 3, the deep meaning of the secret mantra is included within just these 3: appearance, sound, and mind. And so then it says the 6 consciousnesses are blissful and empty, free from extremes, and primordially pure. So within great bliss is the essence of emptiness, and within emptiness is great clarity. So in brief, within that view of bliss, clarity, and non-conceptuality, all offerings are naturally complete.
Andila de Hina de la so Senu Mayu Nang Yishilin, Numong Toxum de Chardin, Shata Risum de Yori, the book Sha, and to Cha Shetan Party, they have a cognitive to the Tawa Kansaga, Numong Toxum the data with Jertokoli, Shai Shiva Tavikati, Numong Toxum the Mini Jollity, Dolly Yishiki, Numoma Saga Yori, data were quite charged. This is on 2 days on the drum is on the not that on the Tonte, Botata, Pita Amatarata, Balita, Mida, the Tonson Juba, Marshall Tasan, the George, Yumopata, the Tapuchi, this one, the top the driver, custom Medina, shock the driver, Chile. Kashetele yomba rapata jini tabuche jogo dollar de district body talab ko dollar uli dollar dozi yomari de tabje tonchile de desana don chuba de ta deshi mambo yorite hotel dollar zawakari tata kaza de to chuba bermete rang de to tongshi go o de lag yomba pasado kali sagde sosa chetal chibo lana 까트리 따오는 시랑 메롱도에 시랑랑 이제 개보 개터봐 데이터들이 유모보다 람데 칠로 서버리 당부 토마디 시랑 솔하고 시랑 람데 칠거리 시랑 람데 제르터라 되게 뜨먹 람데 칠거리 뜨먹 람데 칠터들이 도착 람데 칠터고 요래 지면지마 내 조각시 도착 람데 칠와서 들이들이 뜨먹 도착성 시랑 톡 대체도 유몽톡서서 구성톡 데르들이 너는 코하고 유몽톡성 당시 이식으로 되들이 야만이들 민지적으로 변 버생 호버생 거의 유몽바트 버생 따버리지 이시대 매따버리지 이 탑통 제봉을 버생 계획 같이도 장이 관리를 참아내는 정도로 데이터에 때라는 게 가장 따로 초가들이 초바버 초자 초지 어때 나중에 개봉을 따면 사바된 hinge들이 나중에 매파도 그랬대. 심지어 나중에 사바 hinge게 강리 먹을 때 나니 따로 그런 게도 들이 줘봐도 도대도 조시고 그래. 조르들이 니만 조초도 그래. 다 유모들이 시게 조르들. 대라면 냠냠도 조고 그래. 다다 레시에 바르지 토마도 시당 제보다는 까틀리 파시당데 뭐마디 설 시당 라이어가 강사된 것만이 설랑이 시당 되고 시당 그런 제문을 위해서 말이 네 위성자와 시당이 솔받아서 받고도 말이 봐 시당 시리어 데이터 유모보다 한걸 내 유모벌이 유모 위성자 내 유모라니 심기기 시대 시행이 가까이요 말이 선스들이 시당은 뜬선도 요래 변해 처럼 주당은 방황하기요 데이터는 냐면 도저히 초밥을 데이터를 랑게 뉴모바터데 매발지나 이라게 빠르지 슬라 돌아고 슬라데리 델 뉴모바까지 조설 딸군서 초밥을 절로래 뉴모바데 마돌들이다 칼라슬라들이 내내 절로를 같이 나가요래 베데다 뉴모바 조설로 타면 뉴모 이식을 놓는데 초밥을 뉴모도 더서 잡서 동아데 더서 잡서 인소 가지고 선거는 서로 봐 가지고 유목을 ram지 시장은 동안도 듣자고 잡서 예서 주반 버터때 있다그래 주반 버터 유목 바래지 버터지 시래 사쿠이 때도 하고 그래 주바디 왜 잠깐만 뭐였다 말은 네 또 다른 건 이제 언제 좀 내려게 말만 나오다니 네 나한테 자랑돼 그 말에 락바버리 저거 말에 네 베다 부베디베 세 줘봐 비자 까만 거는 보다 호도된 줘봐 탐시 못했다 되는데니 됐지 잘라도 마비자 아무따라 담을 안에 미다라 따니 말이다 가이 마차로 저 사람들이 말에 패디 존수리 마음으로도 존수리 하고서 따고서 쌍불고 이게는 이렇게 있어 이게는 몇 발에 탑선서 이게 다리요 말이지 탑다리 야쇼 이게는 왜 야쇼 뒤 동다디를 탄 거래 동다 가려 타거든 유몽이 싫은 저들 되긴 그래요. 되니 하고서 다 델팔 제자 유몽을 되는 양식이 요래 알았다 다시 들으려 버리고 약간 줄줄이 말이야.
So then there's the offerings. So I make offerings of the from the non-conceptual expanse and so forth. And then there are these offering mantras representing the outer, inner, and secret offerings. So on the outer level, we have offerings of the various desirables of the senses. Then the inner offerings are the offerings of Amrita, Rakta, and so forth. And so how we need to understand the offerings is also ultimately what we offer really is the afflictive emotions, and they're offered to primordial wisdom, then becoming primordial wisdom. So the three poisons are represented by flesh, blood, and bones, which are made an offering. Ignorance relates to flesh, desire or attachment to blood, and hatred to the bones. So an individual, someone who abides within the view, the natural state, can make these offerings of the three poisons in this way, transforming them into the nectar of the five wisdoms. And then there are these offering mantras after that. So first there is Panchagama Guna Puja Ho. So first there is the outer offerings. Then go here. Then Bodhicitta, Mahasukha, and so forth refers to the nectar offering. And then Mahapancha Amrita Rakta Palingda, so that's Amrita, Rakta, and the Dharma offering. And then Matram, Rudra, Sarva, Dushta, and so forth. These are the wrathful offerings, also called the liberation offering. So there are those who cannot be tamed through gentle means, and they have to be tamed through wrathful means. So this Rudra, Matram, Rudra, Sarva, and so on refers to these wrathful methods or ways of taming, or the wrathful offerings. So in brief, basically the afflictive emotions are transformed through skillful means into primordial wisdom. And then ultimately, so then Mahamudra, Anurakaya, and so on, refers to that ultimately, the ultimate offering is to see that there is no duality between one who is liberated and a liberator. So there are generally many ways to explain the secret mantra offerings, but the root to understand here, the essence is that the person who is making these offerings really makes the offering of the afflictive emotions to primordial wisdom or to the deity. And so, for example, that also refers to eliminating one's own afflictive emotions through the view. For example, when anger arises and it is dissolved through the view, it becomes mirror-like wisdom, and one is even able to laugh. And this is how we take the afflictive emotion as the path. There is three afflictive emotions, or three levels of taking them as the path. So the first level is to liberate the afflictive emotion of anger, which is somewhat easier. So we take anger as the path, practice with anger. Once liberated, next we take ignorance as the path. And then finally, if we can take ignorance as the path, we are also then able to take attachment or desire as the path, finally in the end. Also, the three poisons relate to the enlightened body, speech, and mind when they become liberated. So then ignorance is enlightened form, attachment is enlightened speech, and hatred is enlightened mind. And ultimately, these three mature into a state of great equanimity. So they are offered to primordial wisdom or to the wisdom deity. For example, it is just like you have a large amount of wood, and then the awareness, a primordial awareness, is like a blazing fire. If you have a large blazing fire, that can turn any amount of wood and trash into fire itself. So this is how to make the offering from the perspective of the view, for someone who has understood the view. Then for someone who still possesses greater self-grasping, they need to cultivate loving kindness and compassion, and in this way first eliminate the grasping at a self. So first the self-grasping diminishes through love and compassion, and then gradually, step by step, we apply the view and liberate the afflictive emotions gradually into primordial awareness. And so the way liberation occurs is through an actual experience. For example, the experience of giving rise to strong anger. When a strong anger arises, you don't look at the person who made you angry, but you recognize the anger itself. Milarepa had said in terms of anger, that anger or hatred is the root of the three lower realms. Therefore, I practice patience, even at the cost of my life. So ultimately, from the perspective of the view, we recognize the nature of the afflictive emotion and recognize that it is not separate from one's own clear awareness. And when you recognize that, then instantly, it is just like throwing the ice block into hot water and it will melt. And the afflictive emotion will disappear and manifest as the primordial awareness of the deity. So then the more one is able to liberate afflictive emotions, the more offerings arise. So because the liberation of the afflictive emotion becomes the offering. Now, for example, there are some who, when they eat food, they get sick from eating food. So the afflictive emotion also causes pain and suffering. But then, on the other hand, when it becomes liberated, when you recognize its nature, it becomes medicinal. Actually, in the Drukpa Kagyu, for example, it is said that when you recognize the true nature of afflictive emotions, then all suffering becomes an ocean, a blissful ocean of nectar. So again, what is to be offered? The offering is the afflictive emotion, and it is offered to primordial wisdom. And let's take a rest for 20 minutes.